zu sehen. Yes. Affirmative. Das ist okay. Yes. Okie-dokie.
I have been a pretty big Commandos fan since I played the original one 20 years ago. So I was pretty stoked when I heard that Kalypso would resurrect the series. Sadly, Kalypso being a small basement publisher means that they don't have the budget for a proper sequel, so we will have to make do with this top-down nonsense. At least it is 3D. I was worried that Kalypso would only have enough money to pay for 2D backgrounds, so that we would end up with some Dink Smallwood Commandos look-alike baby game. No, but I got into this series with the second game. My father bought a cheap version of it on a whim when he was in Malaysia, and then down the rabbit hole I went into the real-time tactical stealth genre. Since then I have played the rest of the games in the series and most of the other ones in the genre, but I still find the second game to be the undisputed champion.
It's ready.
I know that some people like to shit a little bit on Strike Force, but I like it for what it is. Some people might not consider it completely halal, but I have probably spent more time with Strike Force than with Commandos 1. I have always found the first Commando to feel a bit clunky in comparison with the second one. The third game has its moments of course, but it also has some strange design decisions, and to a large part it feels like an inferior version of the second game. But the short version is that I have been waiting for a new Commandos for a while, so I am genuinely happy that the Commandos and its genre is being revived. The catalyst of this is of course Mimimi Studio with its release of Shadow Tactics, and Commandos' origin is clearly heavily inspired by the work of Mimimi Studios. For good and for bad, but more on that later. Last year I played demo, and I thought it was complete and utter dog shit.
Wer ist da?
Ich glaube, ich brauche eine Brille.
You're dead to me, boy. You're more dead to me than you're dead.
Pyro Studios.
Ja. Det gjorde de inte i ettan, om inte mitt minne är helt retarded. Med Upsake-projekt ibland, man undrar allvarligt talat. Hur kan de inte ha testat det? Det är helt jävla orimligt.
The demo was extremely unimpressive. The map was boring, it was buggy, and it looked unimpressive. So I had basically given up hope for this game. But at launch I saw some positive reviews and thought to myself, what am I doing? I have whined about the death of this series for so long, and now I am not even supporting its revival. So like a true sucker I bought it and completed it, and while I have a lot to complain about, I probably overreacted a bit, and it is not as bad as the demo made it seem. The too long didn't read version is that the game is alright, if a bit unimpressive. If you are new to the series, then Commandos gives you control of a set of special operatives, and in this game you are sent to carry out missions in Europe, Scandinavia and North Africa during the Second World War. You will be heavily outnumbered, and the focus is to make use of stealth to get through the missions. In practice, this means trying different approaches over and over again to get it perfectly right, so that you can slowly conquer the map. I will come back to the gameplay later, but let us start with the state of the game. The game is buggy.
I'll be right over. Was? Keine Alarm! Alarm! Calling for assistance! I need help.
And it makes you wonder what type of idiot you have to be to buy games at launch. I mean truly, you have to be a real simpleton to consider buying games at launch when you can wait a year and buy them in a more stable condition for a fraction of the price. I thank Kalypso for reinforcing this lesson. To start with, there were game-breaking bugs. One mission kept on crashing, so I could not play the game for an entire evening. Then on the same mission, my commandos were unable to progress due to an invisible wall blocking an exit.
On it. Okay. Yep. Okay.
Thankfully, a gamer savant realized that you could walk past the invisible door if you carried a body.
Touchdown confirmed. We're safe on Mars.
After this, I didn't experience any crashes or game-breaking bugs, but I see that others aren't as lucky. Something that was ever present though is the awful performance. I will come back to the game's visuals, but let us just say that from the game's presentation I would expect the game to run well on my machine. It does not, however, and on the larger maps I constantly see drops below 30 FPS. I can even lower the video settings to the lowest possible with barely any improvement. Something is clearly not working as it should, and I'm not sure how they have managed to screw it up to this degree. For the fun of it, I enable the DLSS with ultra performance combined with the lowest setting, which rendered this monstrosity. And still I have shitty frame rate. How is this even possible? And then we have all the little things. We have strange pathfinding.
Merkwürdig. Understood. Yes.
We have shooting through walls.
Good for when things take an unexpected turn.
Okay.
I understand. Not many left of your little group.
We have strange AI behavior. We have the vertical view bugging out constantly, making it a big pain to be inside buildings with multiple levels.
Yes. Uh-huh. Yep.
Another annoying thing I kept on encountering was that the active character wasn't switched when I clicked on their portraits. First I thought I was imagining it, but then it kept on happening so often that I even got video evidence.
Already good.
There are also other things which might not be bugs strictly speaking, but still gives the game an unfinished feeling. Commandos can't handle ledges, jumping into water or climbing out of water. It feels extremely restrictive, and I'm just assuming that this is something that the devs didn't have time to implement. For the marine in particular, it just becomes very silly, and it feels unfinished and unpolished. The state of this game is unfortunate in many ways, but what makes it even worse is that the game was sold for almost full price, and there is a big contrast compared to the mini games that are typically extremely polished. If we disregard the technical problems and move on to the presentation, then it is alright if a bit unimpressive and lacking in the Commandos' charm. The interface is one clear example where the charm from the older games is completely gone. The music is another example. The music in the previous games was just fantastic. The music in this game is both not as good, but also the game's audio mixing is screwed up, and you barely get to hear it on default audio setting.
Ich hoffe, es gibt dieses Jahr noch Urlaub für uns. Yep. Consider it done. Yes. Yes. Yep. Yep. Uh-huh. Yep. Yes.
Cutscenes are also in engine, and the result is a far cry from the old ones. If I were a hack, then I would say something like, "What do you think? Comment below," to bait YouTube engagement. In terms of maps, it is all 3D. I still think the old 2D maps looks great, and I would have preferred them to kept it 2D, but I can buy that there are gameplay reasons for using 3D maps. The desert maps and Norwegian maps looks the best, while the Central European ones can look a bit odd. I'm not a graphical guy, but there is just something fucked up with the lighting. Most maps also fail to be as interesting and distinct as the old ones. If you have played Commandos 2, then I bet that you can list a bunch of missions from the top of your head. In this game it is mostly a bunch of non-distinct bases that fail to capture your imagination to the same degree. I replayed Commandos 3 for this review, and even in that game you have missions like the moving train, Bavleen, Uhama Beach, and so on that stands out from the rest. In terms of details and animations, it is fine if not impressive. Comparison to minimi games is not flattering for Commandos, but minimi games are more cartoony, so perhaps it's not a good comparison. But if we compare it to War Mongrel instead, that have an art style more similar to Commandos, then I still don't think that Commandos comes out looking all that impressive. But the presentation is only presentation, and to quote people who want to pose as hardcore gamers, the only thing that matters is the gameplay. Show me someone who says that and I will show you an uncultured gamer fraud. In terms of gameplay, it is extremely similar to minimi games. Most quality of life improvements are carried straight over, and you can also stop time and give commands to multiple units. All great stuff. They have also simplified the inventory management. Gone are the days where you can loot bodies and explore every building to find some cool shit. Instead, you are locked to each commando's abilities, and each map have a couple of pickups to give you more resources. In essence, every commando has one unique distraction skill and a couple of special skills. So the sapper have a bear trap.
Yep. Okay.
Merkwürdig. Was ist das?
Yep.
Merkwürdig. Was ist das?
The sniper can snipe. Green beret can hide in loose ground. The spy can dress up. The driver can drive a tank in one mission, and the marine can do marine stuff and also kill people silently from afar with a harpoon and a throwing knife. All commandos are not created equal, and the marine is by far the most powerful commando.
Better not lose him.
Followed by a spy and a sapper. In the old games, the sniper could get a decent amount of ammo by looting enemy snipers, but we can't have that anymore, so he mostly stands still until you need him for one special circumstance.
I understand.
The driver seems to be more focused on loud approaches, which is a bit awkward as the game is forcing you into a quiet approach, so I barely touched him until I needed his overpowered distraction ability. The spy can also no longer pick up uniforms from enemies. Instead, every map he is in has one clothing location where he needs to steal the uniform. There are also only 2 different types of uniforms, so gone are the days when you can dress up as an officer. All of this should feel extremely similar to minimi games, which is where they have taken it all from. They also have a global alarm system which will be raised whenever an enemy gets alarmed and not immediately killed. In my playthrough I basically just quick loaded whenever the alarm was raised. So combine this with the game's lack of meaningful combat abilities and lack of ammunition, and you have a game that is completely focused on stealth, just like mini games. So I have opinions on this, but before that let us just accept Commandos' origin for what it is. A clone of mini games in Commandos' skin. And for the most part I liked it. It is a long game with a bunch of missions. It plays fine and the gameplay is competent. It is clearly missing the polish of mini games, and the map design is not as tight. Some of them also feels very railroady and linear. The maps also doesn't feel as distinct, and the story is much more lightweight compared to mini games. But all in all it is fine, and if they fix all the technical problems, then it is certainly a game that Mimimi fans should check out. With all of this said, I still have opinions. So I like mini games, but I believe that they have streamlined the experience to the point that something is lost. I especially felt that while playing Shadow Gambit. Yes, this genre has always been stealth focused, but it didn't used to be limited to stealth. It was a tactical game, and if I wanted to I could pick up a rifle and take out patrols by force.
Right away, sir.
Ammunition was plentiful as you could loot enemies, and so combat was an option that you could mix with stealth. The mission design could also take this into account, and so the developers could add mission variety by adding combat-focused missions. All of this is gone, and this results in missions feeling a bit similar to each other. It is all stealth missions, where you need to use your limited magic skills to conquer the map. I like this, but it starts to feel a bit samey after a while. The inventory management part of the older games resulted in you having a bigger incentive to explore the map, as you could find a bunch of cool shit in it. But it also resulted in you having more options to tackle the situations you found yourself in. In this mission from Commandos 3, as one example, I found a bunch of grenades and sniper ammunition, and so I could just drop stealth and go full combat mode.
Quick, wasn't it? Done.
This is never the case in Commandos Origin. You are always held back by the limited amount of magical skills assigned to your commandos. The sapper can't throw a stone to distract enemies, because that is the skill of the marine and not the sapper. You are no longer in charge of a set of special operatives using any means necessary to reach the objective. You are controlling heroes with gaming abilities. This is of course bad for immersion, but your limited tools also result in you using the same tactics over and over again. Now let me be clear, this is not a new problem. Even in Commandos 2 I kept on using cigarettes to distract enemies over and over again. But the limited amount of options have made this worse instead of improving it. The later missions are also packed with enemies, and with the limited tools at your disposal, you often have to chase very thin margins to successfully pull it off. Yes, it can feel good when you finally succeed. But there is also a lot of frustration here when you quick load and try something over and over again. The essence of what I'm saying is that the mini-me formula is to a large degree limiting the gameplay and mission design. And the more games of this type that you play, the more predictable it becomes. Perhaps you are just not getting it. So let me show you an example. I replayed some Commandos 2 while writing this review. In this mission, you are supposed to assassinate the general. So I hid away with the sniper, and I used a rope ladder to prepare an exit strategy. So the plan was to jump into the canal and swim to the boat. It worked out fine to start with. But then the sniper got chased by a crocodile and my other commandos were caught. I also tried to prepare an ambush with resistance fighters, but that didn't go very well.
Oh no!
The point of this example is that while most of the missions was the typical take over the map gameplay, here we have gameplay that goes beyond that. Yes, Commandos have stealth gameplay, but there is more to it. And if you remove all of this, and the only thing you have left is you distracting enemies with cigarettes and taking them out one by one, then something is lost. So while I am happy that Commandos got revived, I think something got lost in the translation, and I hope that they get the chance to create a new game where they feel more confident to make the game more like Commandos and less like Shadow Tactics.